Test, test, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. That won't actually. So don't click on start webinar. Yeah, so
Okay.
just join into your audio. But now go into. Oh, you're already, yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Like, hello, how's it going?
Good. Thank you. Good morning.
So,
I'm logging in early because I have no idea how I'm going to moderate this session.
that's totally okay. Just want to introduce myself. My name is Lauren, and I'll be helping you guys through this.
Great. And the first thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find my background image on my computer for Zoom. So
Okay.
Like, are you trying to do like a company logo for?
yeah, they gave us that.
Okay, so I can kind of.
Wait a minute. Add image. And I thought I downloaded it. Let's see.
So who's going to be sharing the presentation? So I was told this was going to be a screen share.
It will be. It will be my colleague Maya, who is just waiting to be admitted. I think this is her. She
Okay.
will sharing her screen.
All right, perfect. Well, we'll wait for her to get all logged in and we'll give her a quick test. I do have a backup just in case things don't
She's
go
very,
as planned.
she's very Zoom savvy, I will say. So
Awesome.
we're just introducing you, Maya, that you will be sharing your screen, and then we'll give you an opportunity to try it out.
Sounds good. This is Ginny. She will be very active in this session, it seems.
She's like, I want to be on Zoom too.
All right. So I'm just gonna not this portion of my screen. Let's go. Sorry, I'm just trying to. There we go. There we go. How does that look on your end?
Looks good on my end.
Fine as well.
Yeah. How about you, Rich and Janika? How's that look?
It's good. Yeah.
And then is there any audio embedded into your slides?
No.
Okay, awesome.
One question we did have was just how breakout rooms will happen. So you'll see kind of like there'll be a bit of an introduction, and then on after slide 12, well, on slide 12, it will kind of be giving a bit of instruction and then going into breakout rooms. So we just wanted to quickly check in who will be will you be able to learn, like randomize those rooms and like create them?
Yes, I'll be able to randomize them. I've also co-hosted you guys, so because there's a randomization function on Zoom where it puts people in random places, so the three of you will be able to hop in and out of rooms as need be.
Okay.
Is there any other people that would possibly need to hop out of rooms, or like this person needs to be in a specific room?
It's mainly just the room size. Like ideally there wouldn't be more than, what did we decide, 4, Maya?
Like 5?
5.
So there's gonna be 5 breakout rooms?
No, max of 5 people. Like,
Oh, okay.
so just kind of asking, like when you do the kind of, once everyone's in the space and you do the behind the scenes making it, if you could just set the size to.
Okay. So we don't have a number of how many people are going to be in this Zoom session.
No.
Okay, so I'll keep a track of that, and I'll just try to get I'll get a number once I get a count of how many people and set that up.
So my question to the panel is, have you guys organized how this presentation is going forward? So all I have to do is introduce people, just give the title of it, and then say, and now I turn it over to the panel and let them, and you guys will just take it and carry it forward, and at the end I will just close out.
Okay.
I love it. It's
Yeah.
easy, and so I have this script that I have to read, so I'll read the script, and that's that.
Absolutely. So, and like we're good with our own intros and everything. And if you wanted to do a drawing and participate and get thrown in a group and have some fun with us, you are very welcome. But whatever works for you.
Yeah, no, totally. You should put me in a group.
Absolutely. We'll put you on the hot seat.
Can you hear this, Maya? My technique? No.
It might be better because I think like Anita doesn't know
Okay.
you can also, oh yeah, that's good. Or you could just say next slide.
When I do a fair number of these workshops. So we usually have a secret technique where she does all the technical stuff and then I click a pen and she flips the slides in a secret way. So but I think we're kind of putting a hand up. Would that work? Will you be able to see it?
Yeah.
Can I ask 2 questions? This is gonna be boring for everybody else that is here, unless you're Maya, but I did have a quick question. On slide 12, where we had the debrief, we go right from talk about your activity to what's missing. There's no similarities, differences, like there's no step. And when I was working through it yesterday, I just wanted to ask you, yeah, right here, you'll see 2 and then you see 3. And I tried doing it by myself and like the leap was a little bit funny.
Does that fix it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does. Thanks, friend.
Yeah. Anything else content-wise that you...
Well, my last question to everyone on slide 13, where in 12, we say we're going to ask them to paste something, but then we don't have it anywhere. So
Yeah,
it's like,
I saw that too. I added it in a note here on slide 12. So they're prompted in the instructions there on step 4. And I can put that here as well.
I was just going out last night and then I was like, oh. And are you okay with me identifying you as the drawing author?
Sure.
Okay. Those are all my questions.
Okay. I just kind of want to quickly talk through of like just kind of the process of this. So one of you, I believe it's Rich, you're going to be kind of introducing and facilitating the beginning. Is that correct?
I'm just going to give the introduction and turn it over to these guys.
Okay. And then it's once we get to slide 12, that's kind of my cue to open breakout rooms once you've introduced that.
Mm-hmm.
They're very clear, like, and now we're going to go into breakout rooms, have fun.
Okay, cool. So then that's when I'll open them up. People will go into their appropriate rooms. How long are people going to be in breakout rooms for?
15 minutes.
15 minutes? Okay. And then do you want me to just like at the 15-minute mark, just end the breakout room so everyone comes back into the main session, or do you want people to kind of trickle out?
No, if you would end it and we will send you have like half of your time is gone. You've got 1 minute left. Like we can send those prompts.
Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. And then finish your presentation, and I guess that's a breakout room.
And do I need to tell people that they need to get paper and pens or anything like that?
We are happy to do that, but if you wanted to as well, we know sometimes people need lots of reminders of things. So
Okay.
yeah, if you feel so inspired, please do.
I take this moment to fill up on my coffee, so I'll be right back.
Yes, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get myself a cup of tea, so I will return shortly.
And is it just Anita we're waiting for?
Yeah, she's in another meeting for another 5 minutes, and then she should be hopping on. So
Okay, awesome. And then like the 5 minutes before we're about to start, should we let other participants join, or?
yeah, I don't mind if people trickle in early. Like, I'm a keener, so I appreciate other keeners.
And with the person with the presentation, I appreciate that.
There you go.
Right, awesome. I'll watch for Anita and yeah, check back in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for like helping with all the tech end. It's like really
Yeah, that is what I'm here for. Anytime you have anything, you can either shoot me a private message in the chat or, hey, Lauren, hey, Encore. All
sounds good.
right, thanks.
Thank you. Hey, friend.
Hey, I sent you an email and I spent some time during this morning going like, ooh, who do I have a brain crush on? So thank you for
Just saw
that.
that come through.
I realized that they're all in Toronto. So except two. I was like, oh, I need to expand who I know.
Mm,
But
yeah, I hear you on that. Oh, I've also just noticed that we're recording, so
oh,
just as a heads up.
Oh, yes, my apologies. I should have told you guys that. Yes, this whole session will be recorded.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll keep our pre-banter also
can we
noted.
talk now
All
until
good.
we get started? Like, can we?
Like, do you want me to pause the recording and then start it up again?
That's what I'm like, yeah, like, could we just start like when we're gonna get started?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then we could just delete the kind of preamble jabber that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are now recording.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, we're just hanging out.
Mm-hmm. 3 minutes and counting.
So excited, I have to admit. I like part of my, when I'm not doing like evaluation work, I do patient oriented research is my kind of favorite jam. So I'm like so excited to have them together. Like I was like getting ready to
That's
give,
awesome.
I get to give like examples outside of evaluation and in this. Excited to see how this was going to go. It's the first time we've done this material here, and I'm just like,
I'm excited.
Are you guys all from BC or?
Yes.
people. I live in Vancouver now, but I grew up in Ontario, like many people.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm from Nova Scotia, so, but I've been out here for a really long time, so this is home now.
Yeah,
Which is always
I'm originally from Syracuse, New York,
Oh,
and came here in '96 to do my postdoctoral fellowship at UBC, and never left.
It never left.
Ah.
I became Canadian citizen.
wonderful.
There you go.
Nina, would you still call yourself an East Coaster? Like when people ask?
No, I don't. I definitely have roots there, though, that's for sure.
I do. Sometimes I do miss home. I mean, this is home though now. It's a bit of a contradictory feeling sometimes.
My partner's from New Brunswick and he's been here for a time, but he always is like, you can't take the East Coast out of an East Coaster. It's just crazy. It's like, it doesn't happen.
We're
My
also
accent
getting waves
comes out.
from the Maritimes in the chat, so we're getting waves all around.
Oh, yay. Yeah, there are certain words I say and my accent comes out.
My funny thing, I love that in East Coast, everybody knows, like either knows someone of someone or can tell the street. like Miramichi to Bryn, and then it's like, oh, St. John, I know this person. Do you know that street of the place or this? I'm just like, how does that happen? 2 degrees of separation, exactly.
Oh my gosh. So my cat has just appeared and she's actually considering, I got one of those big fluffy beds, kind of like what you have behind you, Maya. And she's actually considering sitting in it. It's been over a month and she wouldn't go near it. I tried putting her in and this is what I get. Like the paws all awkward and
Yeah,
everything.
but it's her idea now. Like now,
Yes, exactly.
Welcome as everybody comes in. I'm very excited.
Yes. Welcome,
People
welcome.
people are starting to join. It's just 10 o'clock now, so they're
Mm.
coming back from their break. I think we'll give them a minute or two before we actually get going here.
yes, absolutely. So if you're trickling in, welcome. We're just chatting. You're welcome to chat too. It's not getting serious yet.
Great
I-
opportunity to grab a piece of paper and something to draw with. So if you have pens or
Yes.
colored pens or pencil crayons, this is the time to.
Exactly. Anything that you want to use. Rich is getting ready for us.
Yep, I'm getting my paper now.
Mm.
And also, as you join in, feel free to just introduce yourself in the chat. We'll be doing breakout rooms as we go a little further into that, so it's nice if people have a little sense of who you are. All right, I think as people trickle in, I'm going to officially start this workshop, and I have a script that I have to read, so I will do that for you starting now. And so, welcome to the breakout session 1B, Exploring Drawing and Arts-Based Methods in Patient-Oriented Research. We have 3 presenters, the 3 women that you see at the top of the screen here above the slide will be your panel and leading you through this workshop. I am the moderator of the session, but basically I will be doing almost nothing and I will be a participant like yourselves. My main role will be to give this little speech in the beginning and maybe a little bit at the end, and if there's some questions that need moderating, I will do that too. So there will be a live question and answer section after the presentation, and so you can use the question and answers features as part of the Zoom. If you're familiar with Zoom, you can do that, or just put them in the chat. And if it's directed towards a particular person, please indicate that. That would be helpful. If you're a Twitterer, a tweeter, please use hashtag PPF2022. Our conference has typically been a trending conference while going on in Twitter, so we like to keep it trending. So please Twitter away during this session and others, and tell people what you're experiencing. If you have any technical questions, please go to technical support. You can find that at the bottom of your menu on the left in the conference platform. And so that's pretty much it. I'm going to turn it over to our 3 presenters, Jenica Nichols, Maya Lefkowitz, and Anita David, and I'll let them take it away from here. It's all yours.
Thank you, Rich. I just wanted to say good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. The session is called Exploring Drawing and Arts-Based Methods in Patient-Oriented Research. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and grab a piece of paper, and so that you can see just how drawing can be. Slide there, you can see those lovely photos of us. You can read a little bit about us. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. I have worked on multiple research projects and find that the fallback for many researchers is to deliver a presentation and or to write an academic article, and then they're done with it. But I am excited about using drawing and other arts-based methods in research because it allows the research team, including patient partners as well as study participants, to stretch their imaginations, to uncover what they might be thinking, but don't know they're actually thinking it. And most of all, it is a way to encourage engagement, but also to have some fun. So I'm going to hand it over to Maya for the next slide. Thank you.
Awesome. So we'll just start here with what are arts-based methods. And it sounds self-explanatory, but as you'll hear throughout this session, there's quite a bit to it. So the first part of an arts-based method is, of course, the art. And we use tools that are inspired by arts techniques that you would see in the real world. So things that are literary, like a story or a poem, but also in a huge range of visual arts, audio-visual performance. Today, we're going to focus on visual art. We're going to be using drawing, but as you can see, there's quite a few here. And those are paired often with another research technique. Usually it is qualitative, and there will be a qualitative element like a discussion, an interview, or a focus group to elicit data that comes from, what does a person experience or think about while they are making that art. And in a few moments, Jenica is going to walk us through a whole cycle of what would this actually look like in practice. And before we get there, it's important to note that there's a few things that arts methods are not. Arts methods are not interchangeable. There's no such thing as one arts-based technique because there are many kinds of art and they do different things. So for example, today we're using drawing because drawing is really good at eliciting an underlying assumption, but that's different than how you might be using a narrative, which is really good at teasing out what words are on the page. So those would do different things. While arts can be cathartic or feel really good and enjoyable, they are not therapy. And it's really important, especially in a health setting, that we differentiate an arts-based method from arts therapy. Those are not the same thing. They don't have the same goals, and typically they don't have the same people in the room. Sometimes we hear critiques that arts-based methods are kind of bogus or fluffy. They're not really rigorous, and they don't get at good data. This is a myth. We're working on it, and if you've changed your mind after this session, we would also appreciate if you help us dispel this myth, because arts-based techniques take a lot of skill, it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a huge commitment to both understanding the craft and the ways in which you would use data. Like all research methods, they are not risk-free, and we'll talk about that as we go throughout our ethics considerations for today. And of course, arts-based methods aren't good for all projects. Sometimes a survey is the right tool, sometimes an interview is the right tool, and sometimes arts are not a good idea. So we're gonna give you some examples in this session of when they might be a good choice. And of course, you know your work, you know your people, and you'll know best if this is a good fit or not. And now I'll hand it off to Jenica to share a little bit about that cycle.
Okay, so at a very basic level, there's kind of 4 steps in a research project, right? We start at our research question, and then based on what our question is and our skills and our training and who we're working with and who our funder is, we develop and design our study. We use tools to collect data, we analyze that data, and then we use it ideally to make a change in our kind of context or where we're working. Next slide. And at a basic level, which is where we're talking about arts now, at an introduction level, we're talking about using arts in the data collection phase. And what that means is we use the art to either the art making process or the thing that comes out at the end So for example, here we could talk about the actual drawing session, the kind of things that come up during the drawing, which is the process, or the drawing that comes out at the end, the product. And then we pair that with an elicitation tool. So what I mean there is we're using the art as an elicitation tool. So we pair it with a qualitative approach. So either individual interviews or a focus group to get at our data. And then we analyze it using qualitative approaches and hopefully again use it. Next slide. So just like if you're thinking about in your design stage, sometimes it's right to use a quant method. Sometimes we want to use a qualitative method. So why would we add art making to our data collection? Well, art is really good at getting at topics that are sensitive, complex, or just hard to put into words. So many health experiences or physician or nurse or other healthcare provider experiences of work can be really hard to put into words, and art offers this great opportunity to get at that stuff. Second, art can be really helpful if there's populations that are often misrepresented or overlooked in our traditional methods. And if you're curious, I would really point you to look at some exciting arts-based work coming out of working with adults with dementia. Third, I think what art really can be good at is getting at those underlying assumptions, the things that kind of are under the surface, but yet guide so much of what we do. And there's an opportunity about that you may not be able to get at that through a survey and an interview, and art can make that stuff come to the surface. It's useful for knowing multiple truths. So we all can understand that my experience with diabetes might be different than yours, and it creates space for those multiple perspectives to come to the surface and come together for co-design or co-understanding an issue. And lastly, we're all in a world where we're tired. We're tired of surveys, we're tired of Zoom, we're just kind of tired. And what art can offer is an alternative to kind of increase the joy or the excitement to participate, to both make it less extractive and also increase participation. Next slide. And so the great debate in arts-based methods is how good does the art need to be? In other words, how much do I need to understand the theory and practice of the method to be able to do it? And I just want to, if anyone wants to nerd out or talk about this, I would love to chat offline. But most importantly, what I want to introduce to you and say is, if you don't identify as an artist, or maybe you're kind of trained in quant numbers and art is a little bit scary, there is space for you in this world to use art-based methods in your techniques, and you don't need to identify as an artist. So if that's you, we're also here to chat about that offline too. Next slide, Fred. Okay, so before we do the academic thing and we over-intellectualize it, let's get to doing. So I'm going to encourage you, if you haven't yet, to grab a scrap piece of paper and a pen or a pencil or something to write with. And because we do never ask someone to do something we didn't do, in preparation for this, Anita, Maya, and I kind of did the activity ourselves. And here is Maya's example. She did a lot of heavy lifting for our slides, making and kindly put her picture in. And really what I want to highlight here is that it's on a scrap piece of paper. You can tell it's just random symbols that don't make sense to anyone outside of Maya's mind. So that's okay. We're not expecting it to be fancy or anything. The only key thing we're going to ask is no words, no symbols, no numbers and no words. Next slide, friend. Okay, so here we are. I just want to take everyone a moment to be here, and we're all going to take 20 seconds to think of the question, what are the barriers to practicing good patient-oriented research in your work? Okay, so now we're just gonna, I invite everyone to just draw whatever comes to mind using any shapes, lines, scribbles, abstract figures. If you have different colors with you, you're welcome to use those too. Just remember, no words. So we're gonna start our time now, which on my clock is 10:13 in Vancouver, and we'll kind of have 3 minutes going from here. If you just entered the space, we're just starting our drawing activity. And so it's an invitation to get your piece of paper, and we're all just drawing our response to the prompt. What are the barriers to practicing good patient-oriented research? Okay, everyone, we have about 1 minute left, so just kind of to let you know where we are. Okay, we're just gonna kind of take the last 15 seconds now to wrap up, finish whatever kind of last drawing we're doing, or the one last thing we want to add as we kind of come back together. Okay, so just for, you're not going to be required to show anyone your drawing at any time unless you want to. So please know that. The kind of activity we're going to do now is we're going to break into small groups, and we're going to start by first asking someone to either self-nominate themselves to be the facilitator, where it's your job to kind of make sure you walk through all the steps in the 15 minutes we have. And we're going to ask one person to be the scribe, so kind of taking notes of what you talk about in 3 and 4, and be willing to share back and paste the results from number 4. So we're going to go into the groups, and each person's going to have about 30 seconds to share something about what they drew. Again, you don't have to share anything you're uncomfortable with sharing. And then together as a small group, we're going to think about what is and what is not present in these drawings that's common, and what's different in the drawings. And kind of as you've reflected on what's similar, what's different, what might be missing, we're then going to start thinking about, based on the drawings and what we've discussed, what are a list of barriers? So on that note, is there any questions before we jump into this? Okay, well, good luck. We'll start now, and you'll have 15 minutes, and then we'll be coming back together, sharing some in the chat, and then having a group unpacking of that. So see you when you get back.
All right. Is everyone in a group?
So Maya and Anita, you guys aren't joining a breakout room?
We can. We typically don't, because it tends to like change the dynamic when there's a facilitator there, but we certainly can.
Okay, because it's like how it randomized it. It put you, I put Anita, Maya, and Rich in one room. So I was like, you guys haven't joined. And then I just put Lisa just logged in. So I put her into room 2.
Okay.
Oh wait, she signed off. So should I just put Rich in another room? Just because he's in a room by himself right now.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah, Rich said he would participate as a normal person.
Right, awesome.
Sounds good.
Hey. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we started off with 14 participants and it kind of seemed like we're going to breakout rooms. I don't know if people like accidentally logged off because they thought it was a separate thing.
oh, I see. So how many people are still?
So we've got 2 rooms right now.
Okay.
There's 3 people in each room.
Oh, okay.
So as people come in, I'll just start putting them in rooms.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. And I'll just like hang out of one so that I can keep track of time and like send like broadcast reminders.
Yeah, totally. You guys can, because you guys are co-hosts, you can kind of hop in and out as you would like to.
Sounds good. Anita, did you want to join a group? Oh, you're muted. Still. Oh, there you go.
Hi.
Hi.
I guess I could. I see Maya's in, so Argenica is in room 1.
Yeah, so maybe do you want to hop into room 3 and see how that's going? And I'll just kind of run the back end here.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
I'm
have fun.
joining in.
Lauren,
Hey,
hey, so I have about 5 minutes left on my timer, and I'm wondering if anybody else comes in just for the last 5 minutes, if they want to hang back in the main room with me. I think it might be better if I just explain what just happened and then wait instead of sending people
okay,
off for the last 5 minutes. What do you think?
sure, that sounds great.
Okay,
Yeah, I won't stick anyone else in a room.
perfect, and then I'll just hang back and share what we've been doing.
Awesome, sounds good.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't realize so many people were going to join as we were already in breakout rooms, so thanks for facilitating that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, just give me a heads up for when you want me to close the rooms, and I will close the rooms.
Sounds good. Hi, Paul. I see you've just logged in. We're just in breakout groups right now for another 3 minutes, and everybody's just had a chance to do a drawing exercise, and they're just debriefing it. So you're welcome to hang back if you want, and I can show you what was the activity, and if you want to take 3 minutes to draw, you're very welcome to. Or if you want to kind of get tossed into a breakout group and see what's the conversation going on, just let me know, and you can hang back with me, or we can throw you in a group.
Was that for me?
Yep, that's for you.
Sorry, yeah, I was. Yeah, so it's cool. We met with the rehearsal. Just checking in, just making sure everything was going okay. So I missed the first bit of it because the audio wasn't joined. But yeah, just wanted to check in and make sure everything was going well from your perspective.
It's going well from my end.
Yeah. How many people do you have roughly in this party session?
It's a good question. It's looking like there's 11.
Okay, nice.
We started with 14, and then once we went to breakout groups, I think some people left, but I think.
Yeah, some people can put off by it. So yeah. Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll be circling around, but if you've got any other questions as well. So
Thank you.
thanks a lot. Speak to you soon.
All right, Lauren, I'm just going to send a last heads up that if they haven't moved on to the last step, they should. And then if you wanted to give it a minute and then start the 60-second countdown, that works for me.
Awesome, sounds good. Just let me know.
All right, yeah, if you want to go ahead and close off the rooms, that would be great.
Awesome. Closing rooms.
Thank you. All right, welcome back. Woohoo. All right, we're just seeing people trickle in, and then when we're all here, Anita's gonna walk us through what just happened. All right, Anita, whenever you're ready. You're on mute, though.
I'm on mute. I realized that because I was talking the whole time and no one was answering me. So, what I'd love for you to do right now is to either raise your hand to unmute and share what was discussed in the group, and or you can add your comments to the chat. That would be really great. And think about when we're debriefing this, think about these two questions. What's one thing that surprised you about this drawing exercise, and what's one thing that excited you or make you curious to try this in your work? So would anybody like to start and unmute? I know we had lots of great discussion in the group I was in. Love to hear from that group.
Bryn has raised her hand, so why don't we
Bryn.
hear from Bryn?
Thanks, Bryn.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, it was one thing that surprised me about it was, I guess, just how I found it really like just the it was really easy to get started, but then also when we were having our discussion in the group, like just the variety of imagery, it was so rich. But sometimes, yeah, I can see the benefit of putting that, like how it would be hard to put into words for some folks. And I think so. What excites me about it is, I think when you alluded earlier to using this with populations that might be have more challenging. I do a lot of research right now with older adult folks with caring for those with dementia, and I'm really curious to see how this could be applied. So.
Excellent. I will add, because I was in the group with Bryn and Rich and Alice, and I can't see the last, oh, and I think that was the four of us. So what was really cool about the drawings is they were all very different. And when I asked the question about what was missing, they all agreed on the imagery, which was the communication and symbolizing it by holding hands. So I thought that was really great. Anyone else have any comments, anything that they want to share? Would love to, so Bryn, those notes that that you took, would love to hear a little bit more about those.
Sure, you want me to, I can just kind of go over just the, okay, sure. So as Anita said, we all sort of agreed what was missing was the relationship trust, and we all kind of thought the holding hands would be a good imagery for that. But then in terms of the barriers, we all had different images for that. So One's was two heads with a wall between them. One had a fork under one to symbolize the patient. One had a hypodermic needle under the other to symbolize the doctor. Both had talking bubbles, but the wall, you couldn't have any communication through the wall. There was another with hoops and road bumps being depicted, and a staircase used as a metaphor of a power differential we often see in engagement, but also signifying the inaccessibility of engagement sometimes with certain populations. And then there was another with healthcare providers that they might have a megaphone, but the patient can't amplify their voice, and that the barrier is to give that patient a megaphone. And then there was one with the gears and the system, and how it's a gauntlet to run through all these different gears all doing their own thing, and that there's no space to really kind of get through easily.
Excellent, thank you. I'm wondering if the other group has a couple of reflections they want to share briefly. You can also put it in the chat if you're more comfortable with that.
Beautiful. So I'm seeing in the chat that there was some discussion around barriers related to power differentiation. So does anyone in the group want to tell us a little bit about what you meant by, well, power is a big one. Does anyone want to speak to what came up for you around power?
Hi, yeah. In our group, there are different ways this was stated. Like one person mentioned the power in academia with all of the money and, you know, the voice and the language for that. Another person, me, said that there is like geographic differences and just the environment around you is one of the barriers we're working on.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sonia. So do we have time for more discussion, or shall we move on?
I think we'll move on, but we will have a Q&A at the end. So if something else bubbled up, please like keep that thought or throw it in the chat, because we can always learn from each other as we go. But what I do want to just highlight is I'm going to bring us on to this slide here, where as y'all were sharing your reflections, Jenica was taking some notes. And so what would happen is, if you were doing this for real with your group, there would be that art process. You would give instructions and there would be an opportunity to draw, and then you would have some kind of debrief like what we just did in the small groups. So in this example, y'all were playing the role of participants where you were drawing and then somebody was facilitating you through a debrief. And then you might do something like this, where you bring those reflections together, and then in your research team with your patient partners, with participants, with family members, you might talk about what is coming up between that's similar, what's different, and what you could do with this information. And so in this example, we have now a pretty comprehensive list of a couple of barriers to get us started, and that was with a 3-minute drawing exercise and a very quick debrief. So you can start to see that you can get to a lot of really important insights very quickly. So Anita, I'm going to hand it back on.
Excellent. Yeah, so just to summarize what drawing offers us, it's a way for us to visually explore ways of thinking. It also puts ideas out there that we sometimes tiptoe around when we only have words to our for ourselves. And also it renders the invisible visible. It helps us get unstuck, and it honors wisdom that is not easily articulated or can be incoherent or seem half-baked. Next slide, please. So this ethical considerations is the big one. So consent, get it before you start, get it once the art is made, and get it again when you want to use the art. That's really important. Vulnerability, use low-risk questions and set reasonable parameters. Crappy quality drawings are welcome. I, for one, am not a great drawer, so I always appreciate that point. And remember that what people draw isn't always what they think or feel. And doing by leading. So this is something new. So you're going to want to practice, practice, practice. So I suggest using a low risk group like your teammates, even your family or friends, to simulate this activity before you use it on real participants. So you can work out all the kinks, you can make things run smoothly, and it also really targeted in for what you need to know. And if you ask your participants to draw, do it yourself. Never just sit there in the room and watch people draw. You want to be able to make this as participatory as possible. Thank you. Next slide.
All right, and just to bring us home, don't worry, this is going to be a handout, and I'm dropping a link in the chat right now for y'all because I know this is a big slide. So here's what we just walked through together in this very short period of time and what you could do in your work. The starting point is to identify what is your topic. This would align with your research question ideally. What do you want to know more about? Why is drawing the thing that's going to get at the information you're looking for? And of course, who should participate and who can participate. So make sure you're getting rid of those barriers to participation as much as possible. Of course, you're going to draw with consent all the way through. And if you feel like we're exhausting the topic of consent, good. You should also feel exhausted by how many times you're checking in with people. So the point is, as the researcher or as the partner, if you're exhausted with consent, somebody isn't being exhausted asking you to listen to them. So that's why we are doing this way. Like we did together, you're going to debrief it. And one thing that's important to note with drawing is it doesn't take much time to do it. So we gave you 3 minutes to draw, and you'll want to think of how much time is appropriate to give. So we always say, if you give somebody 20 minutes to draw, they're going to feel very anxious, feeling like you're expecting a masterpiece that you're going to hang on a wall in an art gallery. So you don't want to overwhelm somebody. You want to say, it's going to be quick. It doesn't matter the quality. We're just using this as a tool to have a conversation. And then you'll analyze your data the way that you normally do or that you feel comfortable using. So if you've done a qualitative debrief with an interview or a focus group, you'll probably want to use an analysis tool that's comfortable for you and that is also appropriate for having patient partners on board looking at that data with you. And use it. Never collect data you don't use. That is a sad time for everyone. So drawing is a great tool to make sure that it gets used because it's already a really accessible method to get into. And we want to make sure that we're echoing that with how we broadcast our data out. On that note, you should all have the link. If you can't access it, please send me a message and I'll make sure that you do. And we're just going to bring it to the finish line so we have time for your questions. So really quickly, if you want to learn more, please stay in touch. And just a friendly reminder on the note of consent. If you liked our workshop, if you liked our materials, please use them and please give us credit. And just a friendly reminder, if you took screenshots, if you took downloads, please keep them to yourself. We really don't love seeing our work on the internet or in other people's presentations. So we really appreciate that. That's just our little caveat. And I'm going to throw it to some questions. Technical glitch there. So we want to hear from you.
As a moderator, I'm going to kick off the questioning here. And if anybody else has a question, please just use the Zoom raise your hand. This is a really simple question. It's something I wondered about. And with with the drawing, that's very simple and easy to do, as you say. But are there other forms of art that could also be used? So could somebody use, say, clay, or myself, I'm a musician. Could I bring an instrument and could I use my musical instrument to create a feeling? And how would that be used as data?
Who wants to answer?
Jenica, you look like you've got something to say.
I think the answer is yes, you can. The key is to understand, we wanted to really anchor it in a beginning level, which means you can come in without a lot of theory or understanding the kind of, you don't need to know the theory of visual methods or the theory of photography, for example, which is another beginner approach where you really can kind of engage and just jump in. And I think that's really important, especially in health, where we often train ourselves to think if I don't have the most valid tool, I can't even come to the conversation. And so we really wanted to ease in. So I would say as you move up, something around performance, like music, does require a more depth and deep understanding. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Just like you don't start your quants to like doing logistic regression. That's okay. We're kind of in the descriptive stat zone, which is more like photography and drawing. But like, yes, you can. And if you're interested, like I would totally like suggest there's other methods. Maya, Anita, and I, when we were trying to pick which method to choose, we wanted to use one that you could just pick up and like leave here and go do it with your team, go in that way.
Thank you.
Are there other questions, or does somebody want to throw something in the chat? Oh, I see a raised hand. Go for it, Sonia.
Hi, do you have any suggestions for the consent form language that we use? Like, is there a general thing that we need to make sure we say?
That's a good question. There are no hard and fast rules. Like, it would depend on your institution. Like, if you're going through a formal research ethics approval process, like lots of people have templates. One thing that we do recommend is that there is a caveat in consent that if somebody is signing a consent form on the front end, that they have an opportunity to see their art before they give like a final approval for whatever. So the consent form can't be a carte blanche for whatever comes out, because in arts-based approaches, it's really hard to give consent if you don't know what you've created, because you don't know, therefore, what you've consented to. And part of that is the creative process of things could come out that you don't know. Sometimes arts are really good at bringing out like spontaneous reflection. So even if you're saying this is about this health topic or this experience, it could elicit a memory that somebody wasn't expecting to share. So if it's a written form, we like to have a caveat that there's an opportunity to see it again. And if it's over a longer period of time, sometimes you might use a secondary form. And sometimes if you're using a secondary form, you might want to have like a knowledge translation clause in there that if the drawing or if it's another visual art is going to be shared out, like in a report, that you might get somebody to like check a box saying, I consent to having this shared in this publication or in this way.
Olga, I see you have your hand up. Please go.
Hello, thank you for the wonderful introduction to this. Anita, hi.
Hi, Olga.
So I just wanted to commend you for the work you're doing. It's absolutely amazing, and the way you're sharing it with us, I'm really grateful. I just was curious, would you be able to point us to a direction where a published research perhaps has used these methods, or would I be Googling your names of the work that you have done through your PhD, as you mentioned, I believe, Janica, if I pronounce that correctly.
That's my Dutch pronunciation. It's Janica. But yes, I think it depends on the method. There is a fair number of researchers out there. Like, for example, drawing has been used by a fair number. There's a woman named Marilise Gilman. I'm going to put her name in the chat. She's one person I've worked with and read her stuff. But I think if you Google like the type, so drawing and whatever arts-based methods, then you can find literature on some of the techniques. Some of them are emerging, so there's a little bit less. I'm also thinking Patricia
Levy is like the go-to. Method Meets Art. It's a good book. But if you do a Google Scholar search for arts-based methods, there's loads. And then we just recommend thinking about which one you'd like to use, because again, they're not interchangeable.
Thank you.
Any final questions? We got about 1 minute on the clock.
Right.
I have a question. I think just in terms of that comment about, again, I'm very new to this concept of art-based approaches, and you mentioned that the methods aren't necessarily interchangeable. I guess one thing I was thinking about was people being intimidated with art, potentially, like maybe from my own bias, my own lens of like, I don't feel like I'm the greatest natural artist. Maybe that's why I gravitated towards, my role in science. But would there be kind of an approach where you would work with a patient partner to identify what kind of makes sense, like to be able to provide options for different mediums, I guess? Like, if people gravitate towards poetry or more so than like drawing or expressing themselves, like I think what we talked about in our group, like through theater, like would that be potentially possible to do within like the scope of one project, or would that be more challenging, I guess, from that perspective?
Oh, that's a good question. Anita, do you feel compelled to speak, like as a patient partner who advises on methodological decision making? Not to put you on the hot seat, but.
I think, yeah, while you were speaking, I was getting really excited because I think that there is so much richness that can come from this information. I guess it depends on the team, right? Because you have to get buy-in from the team, which can be quite difficult. But also it might be prefacing like that, you know, if it's drawing, that you don't need to be an artist, you don't need to be a poet, you don't need to be an actor. It's just basically something that's innately within you that you're bringing out. It's a different way to communicate. It's a different way, and I think it stretches people's boundaries, and it's always you know, people are definitely uncomfortable, but I think encouraging people to sit with that discomfort, to discover new things, because I think that's how we grow. I hope I answered your question there, but I just want to say that just being able to encourage the arts more, I think is so rich.
And if I'll just add one more thing and then I'll throw it back to you, Rich, because I know we're over time, which is when you're thinking about the vulnerability or the risk and when you're picking which art, a great conversation to have with your patient partner or your patient group is to talk about how much vulnerability is it going to take to participate in the art and answer the research question. So we like to think about if it's a high vulnerability or a high risk research question, like talking about something very stigmatized or very personal, we like to use a low risk art form that isn't as invasive. And similarly, if it's a lower risk thing, like somebody has already talked about this health issue a lot, it's not that stigmatized, we have a lot of information, then we can go a little bolder, like use something like theater where people are very present and you're asking a lot of them. So that's how we would gauge it. And you always want to balance the method with the question you're trying to answer. But we are going to be around like throughout the conference if you want to continue to chat offline. Thank you so much. And Rich, back to you. Sorry, we're eating so much time.
That's okay. So let's thank our presenters, Maya and Jenica and Anita, for a wonderful job in introducing myself and probably the rest of you to a way of thinking about patient-oriented research that I hadn't actually thought about before. So thank you all. And if you stay on, I'm told that there'll be some short housekeeping notes that the audiovisual tech will put on the screen, but otherwise we're in break time, and see you at another room in another place in the conference. And thanks for joining our session.
Bye.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thanks for moderating, Rich, and not panicking when we went over time.
And Lauren. Rich and Lauren.
So, and Lauren.
Yeah, enjoy your breaks, and thanks everybody.
And then there were 3 or 4.
Good job, team.
I think that went well.
Yeah. Everybody is on our little